What's up guys, welcome back to Roundup. Slightly different video today. Just released a video on FaZe Rain's benching, and I just thought it'd be cool to go through some potential teams that he might end up at in the coming weeks or months. You never know. It might be before the major, but most likely after the major, unless they do some sort of weird, simple thing where they bring him on as a sub instead. So, got a tier list here. A couple teams in that tier 1, 1.5 scene. I've excluded a few teams, so teams outside the top 50. I've excluded non-English speaking teams, so teams that in like Team Spirit and MIBR, stuff like that. And then I've excluded teams that have like got a roster and they're not looking to make any changes, so Furia, Vitality, stuff like that. So them teams aren't on here just because it would never happen, basically. So first team we've got on here is OG. Now, this is sort of a European mixed team in that tier 1.5, tier 1 scene. They're pretty much like budget FaZe. However, they've just come into a little money. And I think, as a statement signing, this could be really good for OG to bring in that experienced player, an experienced tier 1 player to take them into tier 1. Probably replacing someone like Krisen on that team, he's been solid, but he's not a star like Rain would be for that team. So I'm going to put this in tier 1. I think that would be a really good move for both Rain and OG. And obviously OG can pay Rain the big bucks. Now these next two, Ninjas and Fnatic, I think they don't have the financial muscle to sort of bring the financial muscle to bring a player like Rain into the squad. And I don't think, to be fair, it would make much impact. So I think I'm going to put these in the rather retire section. He don't probably want to go to these teams. They're too far low down. They're playing a lot of games, online games, and obviously FaZe Rain has just had a kid, so he don't want to be playing online games 24/7, don't want to be traveling a lot. So I think he'd rather retire than go to these two teams. So next team I've got is Navi. I think Navi are flirting with a few roster changes at the moment. Obviously they brought Makazi up from the academy to replace JL. And then there's been rumours around of Frozen from FaZe replacing Emma or Alexi B, someone like that. Now I think if Rain was to come into this squad, I think it would probably be for Alexi B or Emma, depending on how much he wants to IGL. If he's really interested in IGLing, I think Blade would be a great coach to sort of teach him the ropes on how to IGL. So he could replace Alexi B in this squad. But I think on Navi's perspective, you know, they did just win Star Series, and I think any change at the moment would sort of derail the team. They should just see out this major and see what happens. Maybe they can make a little run, but it would be a cool thing to see, I guess, is my perspective on that. So I'm gonna put that in. I'll put it in tier 3, just because I don't think it's gonna happen. I think if Navi were to go for a play, it would be more Frozen, like a star rifler, rather than a sort of support player like Rain. Next one I've got is Team Liquid. Now these guys obviously just picked up a lead from FaZe, and you know, why not FaZe Rain as well? I think they're still looking to sort of rebuild after their Twists experiment, I want to call it. They picked up Shui, who's IGLing at the moment, and I think he should probably continue doing that. So if FaZe Rain was to come into the squad, it would be for a rifler. Now it would either be for Nerts or Naf, and me personally, I would go for Naf. You know, sometimes he does well, but most tournaments he goes like full sloth mode and just bottles out. So I think replacing Naf on this team would be good. However, I don't think Liquid would go for Rain, so I'm gonna put it in tier 2. Now, next one is Heroic. Obviously a very young team, Swedish majority with xCloud and Alcarin. I think Rain coming to this team would be a really good replacement for xCloud. They obviously don't want him on the team already. They've benched him already and tried to get rid of him, and they couldn't. And they've only brought him back because two of their players just got bought back to back. Obviously, they lost Tania, and I think Rain would come into that position that Tania was playing, support / anchor role, and he could replace xCloud really well. And he could lead these young guys at the moment. They're in this team, you know, lead them through tier 1 space and establish themselves in tier 1. More than they already are. They are 18th at the moment, which is pretty good. But I think xCloud, I don't think he's quality enough to play in tier 1, unfortunately. You see here he's Rain's not too good. His stats aren't too good. Obviously, his stats don't mean everything, but I think Rain replacing X-Cloud would be a really good move. And Heroic have a lot of money. They've made like $9 million on player sales in the last 2 years. They obviously sold their roster to Falcons and they sold Tania to Spirit. So I think they've got a lot of money right now, and they could definitely pay FaZe. They could definitely pay Rain the big bucks to come and entice him to play. So I think Rain to Heroic would be a really good move for everyone. So yeah, I'm gonna put him up here. Now I did say I excluded non-English speaking teams, but I think Astralis, they're Danish. He's Norwegian. They would have to speak English, or maybe Rain could learn Danish. Probably not. But I think this would be a decent move for Astralis. They've just picked up Magix, which is an OG player, so maybe they're not looking to pick up another sort of veteran. But it would be a good move for them, I guess. Rain is a solid player. He could replace Huxley, who's been a really good IGL, but unfortunately not been very good stats-wise. I mean, that firepower stat is insanely bad, so rip. But I think if he could come into that Astralis team and IGL for them. However, I don't think Astralis are looking to make that move at the moment, so I'm going to put it in tier 2. It's fun to think about. I think it could be a decent move for both teams, for both parties, but I don't see Astralis replacing Huxley to put Rain in there and IGL for them. Now, NRG, put these guys in just because they are in the top 50 somehow. They're a horrendous team in NA. They just picked up Sonic, which is a decent sign for them, to be fair. World rank number 35. They are in the major as well. But I don't think NRG have the money to pay Rain. I don't think Rain would want to go to the NA scene. So I'm going to put this in rather retire. And they've annoyed me as well, because the only logo I could find is this big fuck off one, and it fucks up my symmetry. So I'm going to put them down there. Now, next team I've got is Falcons. Obviously, they move around their roster quite a bit. They've just got rid of Magis to bring in Kiyosuke. And I think the next logical step is, obviously they just got rid of Magis to bring in Kiyosuke. Now, I think from a Falcons point of view, they need to stick with this roster to the end of the major, to the next season, and see what it can get them. Tesses is a really good player, so I don't think bringing in Rain to replace Tesses or Kixon would be any more beneficial than the squad they've already got now. So Falcons do have the money to make the move. Do I think they should make the move? No. But you never know with Falcons. They could just do some random bullshit, you never know. But I think I'm going to put this in tier 3. It is a potential move for him, but is it a good move? Probably not. The next one is G2. Obviously, these guys just won Blast London, which is really impressive for these guys. Obviously, no one thought they were going to win that. And they've got a really solid squad at the moment, and they've got a really good coach in Saw that can teach people how to play IGL. He's done it with Hunter already. But who they would replace on this squad, that's the issue. I think as an idea, FaZe Rain returning to G2, I should say, would be really good. I think he would really fit into that organisation well and fit into this team very well. But who he would replace, who knows? If you replace Rain with any one of these players here, would you get a better output? I don't think so. But you would get Rain's experience and Rain's mind and stuff like that, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And you got Saw, who's a really good coach as well. So I want to put this in tier 1, but just because it's not really, there's no one really to replace him. I want to put this in tier 1, but just because I don't think there's anyone who should get replaced on G2. The roster is very solid. I'll put it in tier 2. He would fit into that org very well. He would work under Saw very well, but they've got a solid squad and there's no one they should really replace at the moment. So I'm just gonna say it's a tier 2 move. Now, BC game. This is where a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of people on socials and HLTV are saying, we should go to BC game. And I think that would be a really good signing for BC Game. Obviously, they brought in Simple, and that's a step. They obviously want to get into that tier 1 scene by bringing in Simple. And I think it's now time for them to put their money where their mouth is and get a player like FaZe Rain to IGL for them, or just a rifle for them, who knows. But they need to bring in help for Simple. Now, they've obviously got the financial muscle to pay for Rain. Now, convincing Rain to play as many games as BC Game do might be an issue, because they play like every single day. I go on Wikipedia and I see, BC Games playing, BC Game playing, BC Game playing. But I'm going to put this in tier 1. I think this would be a really good signing for BC Game, and I think they need to bring in someone to help Simple and take them into that tier 1 sphere. Andu's looking really solid. Kakanito's looking really solid. So I think, unfortunately, for the Germans, it's looking like Prime Taps will be replaced. But he is the IGL, and Rain does want IGL, so it might be a match made in heaven. The next squad I've got is Gamer Legion here, and I'm going to go out of a bit of a hot take, I think. I think this could put Gamer Legion in contention for a major run. I think that he could bring this team to the heights that they want to get to. They obviously, Ash has spoken about all the time that he's trying to break into that top 15, top 10 list, and I think bringing in a player like Rain would really do it for them. And looking at the squad at the moment, Rez, Tolson and PR are doing really well. Hypex has just joined the squad as an AWPer, so hopefully he does well as well. I think he could replace CTR. I've got nothing against CTR, he's a good IGL, but I think Rain coming to this squad and IGLing for them could work pretty good. And Ash is a really good coach to teach Rain how to do that. I think this would be a really good signing for Gamer Legion. Now, Gamer Legion notoriously are like a moneyball team. They pay low wages, they look for young talent. But it's happened before. They got Snacks before and brought him into this squad, and it did really well for him. I think doing the same with FaZe Rain, doing the same with Rain would work pretty good as well. And I think with Rain on this squad, they could make a deep run into the major, perhaps even get to the playoffs. That's my hot take. We'll see if it happens. I don't think it will happen though, but here's me hoping. I like Gamer Legion, because of Ash, UK God. So I would like to see it happen. Maybe I'm biased. Who knows? Next team I've got is Foot. This is the ex-Navi Junior team. I've put these guys are in the top 50 just barely. Obviously they've dropped down quite considerably since Makazi left them. He was sort of carrying that team quite a bit, as it seems. They brought in Lonix from Romania. Decent player, but I think if they could afford FaZe Rain and they could entice him with quite high wages, it would be cool to see him on this team leading these young guys. Whether Rain wants to lead young guys, that's up to him. So it depends on that. I don't think it's going to happen though, and I'm going to put it in tier 3. Maybe on the borderline of rather retire, to be fair. I'm going to leave it in there actually. Next one I got is ENCE. Now these guys are in the ESL Pro League. They've just been knocked out, I believe. Yes, they did. I just saw it this morning. World 26, they're in a little bit of rebuild, bringing in Mitsu from the academy. He's been struggling a little bit, bless him, but he's young. He can work into it. So they could either replace Miltsy or someone like Sundai Young or Netiyu, someone like that. Replace them on that roster and bring in like a solid piece for them. Maybe he could easily IGL for this squad. But I think Pody and Regon are doing really well and they need some help. So I think Rain could be that help for them. So ENCE, I'll put him in tier 2. Just to get that bell curve going. Obviously it's been ruined by rather retire down here, but oh well. Yeah, I'm putting in tier 2. I think it would be an okay signing for both teams. Worse for Rain, very beneficial to ENCE, but worse for Rain. And then the final team on this list here that we've got is Passion UA, or the X Complexity roster that has been picked up. Now, these guys have been obviously moved over to EU. They've been bought by Passion UA and moved over to the EU. They're playing a lot of European lands, stuff like that, trying to build their VRS points. I think at the moment they are in contention for the major, I want to say. Yeah, ranked 20th in VRS. So they have got an invite secured to the major, which is pretty cool. And I think this would be a good move for Rain. Obviously, Halzerg, his Norwegian brother, is on this team. He could replace Kvem quite easily in this squad. Obviously, that gets rid of all Ukrainian players on Passion UA, but hey ho, what can you do? But I think this would be a really good signing for Passion UA. They might not have a lot of money since buying this complexity roster, but you never know, they might have a few spare change left over to bring in a player like Rain that can help him do a major run or help them qualify for the next major, because it's looking like they're on a downward trend, so this could be their last chance, this major, unless they bring someone in like Rain. So I'm gonna put this in. I'll put it in tier 1. I would like to see this actually. I would like to see Rain on Passion UA. It would be a good move for Passion UA mainly. So yeah, let me know what you think of my roster. I could put BC Game up here. I think any of these teams here would be a really good move for Rain. Maybe I'm biased with Gamer Legion, but hey ho, it's my channel. Let me know what you think in the comments. Who you think Rain should go to? Who do you think he could replace? And all your thoughts and opinions, let me know. Thanks for watching. See you hopefully tonight or tomorrow with a new video. And yeah, thanks. Bye.